Hello, and welcome to Voices from the Field, a Mayford podcast where we talk with educators in the field to hear about their perspectives and experiences. My name is Jake Burson, Advocacy Chair for Mayford, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Shay Santiago. Welcome, Shay.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So I'm so excited to be in this space with you, and thank you so much for saying yes to this podcast. Before we get started, I like to ask all the guests this question. What's making you smile these days?
Um, I just got done with a pretty big basketball season. It's my first year coaching at a local charter school. And this is one of the first years they've actually had a middle school team. So it was pretty cool to get them almost to the playoffs and have a pretty good record for the first time considering. And just, getting some time over February vacation and getting to see some family. So,
No, that's good. It's always good to see the family, check in
yeah.
on them, see what's going on. Awesome. So, Shay, tell us more about who you are and how you started your education journey.
My mom was always an educator she did preschool. She ended her career doing kindergarten. So I kind of grew up around education. It was pretty held high in our household. So I got to college and I wasn't quite sure what path I wanted to be. I just knew I wanted to work with kids. So I started off working in some summer camps, doing, adaptive sports and things like that. And then I kind of realized I'd like to lean into the PE and health world. So I got my undergraduate at Bridgewater State University in
Mhm.
adaptive PE and motor development therapy. So from there, I didn't go right into education after undergrad. I was a camp director, and I also managed youth programs at some local YMCA's. After that, I kind of realized I'd actually really like to be in the classroom. So I
Mhm.
started teaching adaptive PE. And then um, after a couple years of that, I went right into, I worked at a private school. So that was kind of what solidified it for me. I did PE, health, and I was the athletic director there. So then I realized, my family was really encouraging me to go into the public school system. So
Mhm.
I took my MTELs and I got a job in Revere, and it was probably one of the best decisions. I wasn't always keen to health, but then I kind of got into it after teaching it for a little bit, and I realized that's where I really want to be. So,
That's awesome. Sounds like you had a lot of different types of experiences with the athletic director and the adapted PE and the health. That's great. That's great. So,
yeah, it wasn't really a straight path, but it was kind of got myself there.
and your folks encourage you and along the way, which is great. So, it sounds like they inspired you to pursue a career in your field. Did anybody else inspire you to pursue a career?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing a lot of sports, and when I got to high school, I had a lot of great teachers and great mentors there who
Mhm.
also were some of my coaches, and that kind of pushed me in that direction as well, getting involved in clubs and working with those teachers a lot closer
Mhm.
um, through after building those relationships. So that kind of gave me that idea of that's something I'd like to do and build those relationships with kids.
So Shay, you're middle and secondary or high school level now, or what? Which level do you teach?
I teach middle school, so teach sixth, seventh, and eighth grade.
Sixth. Okay, so sixth, seventh, eighth grade. Okay. So for our listeners who may not know, what standards or skills do you teach in regards to health education?
So I teach the mass frameworks.
Hmm.
I do a couple different standards with each grade. So for sixth graders, I do a decision making unit, self management and goal setting unit, and then a unit on communication, which are some of the practices of the frameworks there.
Hmm.
And in seventh and eighth grade, I teach the same units and I teach the same practices, but I kind of use the content a little bit different. So I do decision making, self advocacy, and accessing information with those two grades.
Okay. So while we're talking about students, how often do you actually see your students in Revere?
So we work on a 6 day rotation.
Uh-huh.
I myself and the other health teacher, we both have 12 classes. So we split the school in half. So I have every 2 days, I'll have the same class 2 days in a row, and then I'll move to a next group. And I teach four classes of each grade. So within that 6 day rotation, I see each group twice.
Twice. Okay. So let me think about this. So throughout the year, will you see them for a semester, or how many times do you actually see them throughout the year? Like 30 or more, or
I teach them the whole school year.
the whole
So
school year?
I
Okay.
don't know what that adds up to, but I teach them
Okay.
all 2 days a week, September to June.
Okay, all right. That's interesting because every is a little bit different. I know in our district we have the sixth grade they have it once a week all year, but the fifth grade they only have it the first semester, and the same with the
Okay.
fourth. So it just depends on the district we're in. That's cool. So here's another question: how do you ensure that health is and a safe space for everyone, all the students, all the learners?
So whenever I'm teaching anything, I always initially start anything off with, we're all different, we're all unique, we all come from different backgrounds, we all come
Hmm.
from different places. So we need to make sure that anything that we say in this classroom throughout whatever unit we might be doing, and especially in health class, we teach upon some sensitive
Right.
topics for some folks. But I mean, for the general, that's pretty much how we start those classes in general every day, or especially at the beginning of a unit, if I know we're going to do something that might be a little bit I guess, triggering or something like that for a student. And I also have a pretty strict policy on how we address each other in the classroom, which is it goes along with what our school guidelines are too,
Hmm.
in that respect too. But we also talk about, if we are going to talk about something that somebody else might disagree with, we need to make sure that we, especially with sixth grade, with the communication unit and conflict resolution,
Hmm.
a lot of those kids will use those skills, so that way everybody in the classroom feels welcome.
That's great. So it sounds like you're setting up the environment with your routines and procedures, so we're all on the same page. And like
Yeah,
you said, they're talking about conflict resolution skills and decision making skills, so it all comes into play. That's great.
right.
So you kind of answered my next question, which was how do you engage and support your learners? But you explained nicely, one way you do that. Any other ways that you're supporting the learners in the class, either with the content or themselves?
Yeah, my first thing always going into the school year is making sure I build those relationship with students,
Hmm.
and looking
Definitely.
out for those students who might fall through those cracks necessarily in the social groups of their friends, not necessarily in the school, but
Right.
um, and I also with those relationships, like we have a lot of kids that stay after school with us, which definitely helps in the classroom to have those relationships, to know them outside of just the education setting.
Hmm.
Um, so, and then we also have a lot of multilingual learners. So, any materials that I need to produce, I have some classes who have students who need them translated into different documents so that they get the same experience that the rest of the students do.
Right.
So, in those kind of respects, those are things that I do day to day. And if any issues come up, like with students, I make sure to just address it immediately and work with them to see how we can come to a solution for them, whatever it's with another student or within the classroom. And that goes right back to those relationship building.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Those relationships really build a foundation for the whole year. So that's great. That's great to hear, Shay. Um, what advice would you give someone entering your profession, someone new to the field? What would you tell them?
Entering the profession, whether it's PE or health, is just making sure. I feel like those kind of blur the lines of not necessarily like core classes of like we're going to talk about math today, we're going to talk about language arts, and in health and PE, specifically in health, we do touch upon sensitive topics, and I think what I've always told myself is to the first thing you need to do, especially working with students, is making sure that you take care of yourself
Hmm.
before you can head into that classroom. Because when you go into that door and go into your classroom for the day and that bell rings, you're not there for yourself anymore. You're there for those
Right.
students. And I think as a new educator, that was something that I struggled with is just not knowing. Not how difficult, but I guess there are good days and there are bad days, and you
Hmm.
always have to bring your best self so you can meet those students where they're at.
I love that response, Shay. I mean, it just goes to show like we have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of others. And like that analogy they talk about the oxygen mask on the plane, you got to put yours on before you can
Right.
help somebody else. So that's really great to hear. Um, so how would your field change, would you say, since you first started? Any big changes or any developments in the field? I know the frameworks got
Um,
adjusted lately, but
right, right. I guess for me, I kind of, like I said, I got into the education field, not necessarily late, but not directly after college.
mhm.
And I took a very different route than a lot of other educators might have taken. Um, and I guess I'm sorry, could you repeat your question? I kind of
Yeah,
got tripped up there for
no
a
problem.
second.
So yeah, no, the question was, how has the field changed since you have gotten started? And have you noticed any differences or any updates? I know the frameworks just got updated, but what changes have you seen maybe in your school or district?
Yeah, the frameworks itself, I mean, back when I was in health class myself, these didn't exist and health class was very different.
Hmm.
And since getting into education, when I worked at the private school, we didn't have to use those math standards or the national standards. I kind of use them as a guideline,
Hmm.
and they were different at that time. So for me, it was a big adjustment and change for me to go into the public school setting and to learn those frameworks and to put them into play. And I think in general, that's a pretty big change that we've seen
Right.
as educators. So I think for me, that would be the biggest change for health education as a whole, and for me, just something new that I um, just learned and am able to put into practice now with the things that I've already been able to do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think a lot of people are, learning these new frameworks for health and PE teachers because they just got revised. So it's all a learning curve, it's all a learning process, but the standards and the guidelines are important. I mean, I think everything should be based off the standards, right? So that's great that you're doing that. What are some common misconceptions you think folks might have or do have about your field, health education?
I think a lot of misconceptions, and I can speak to this pretty personally.
Hmm.
Up until I started working in Revere, which was just a year ago, I started last February.
Okay.
And since I got just full-time health, no PE or anything else, and discussing it with like friends and family, the first question is like, how do you do that? That's such a hard job, especially
Hmm.
with middle school. And not to say that it's not. But I think a lot of people think it's more of like what they had as health in the past of, oh, you can't do this, you shouldn't do
Right.
this, this is
Right.
bad for you. And now things are framed in the light of here are some of the decisions that you could make. Here is what the result might be.
Hmm.
Let's figure out how you got yourself to that decision, whether it was to with like specifically with my seventh graders, we're talking about vaping and things like that.
Hmm.
And to talk about, yes, it's great to maybe avoid that, but if you are someone who, presents some risk factors, let's look at that. Let's talk about the decision making process of how you could advocate for yourself and decide not to do that. So I think in general, it's more positive reinforcement rather than negative reinforcement, which is what I think a lot of people. I'm 29 and I know that my experience was a lot like that of,
Hmm.
you shouldn't do this. So I think that is a pretty big misconception that I myself have been trying to relate to people that I know in my personal life,
Hmm.
as well as in the past. So.
I love that idea of positive reinforcement because you're right. I mean, people associate the content area with the experience that they had in the past. So, we can change that narrative, all the better. So that's awesome. That's awesome. What do you hope to see in the future? And this could be either personal or professional. What goals might you have?
I mean, personally, I just want to continue to grow in this field. Like I said, I just started teaching health full time a year ago, and
Hmm.
this has become a passion of mine. And I've kind of dived into it head first, and it was the best decision. And I want to see myself grow and learn those standards to the best of my ability, because I think as health educators, we know the standards, but I'd like to know them, like the back of my hand, which would help me in the classroom and help students and parents kind of understand what we've got going on. Like with those misconceptions, I think parents might feel that way as well,
Right,
and not
right.
quite understand that. And I think, um, in the field, there's so much room for growth for all educators. And I know just going to a conference with Mayford recently was really eye-opening and a great experience for me. And I'm looking forward to a lot more of those opportunities to present themselves.
Well, that's great. So you went to the conference at the DCU Center?
Yeah, no, I went to the conference it was out in Western Mass. I don't remember where it was. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. At the public
Or
house, maybe?
yes, at the public
Oh,
house.
right. The Health
Yes.
Educators Conference.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. So there was, yeah, they were was w- was it Dr. Connolly there? They were talking about the frameworks, the standards. Did you remember?
Yes. Yes. And
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
also Maria Melchionda.
Hmm.
I met her while we were there,
Oh,
and I
great.
realized just kind of at the end that she was actually my professor in college. I kind of recognized her. The name sounded familiar.
Oh, no
So it was a
kidding.
great experience to, learn and also reconnect with her and meet some other educators in the field.
That's right. She's a Bridgewater. Yeah, she teaches at Bridgewater. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Great, good for you. So, Shayna, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and experience with us. It's been really great chatting with you, connecting. Listeners, if you have any questions, you can always email us at mayfordpodcast@gmail.com. We'll have this episode uploaded soon. Also, we're asking to leave a review if this podcast has been helpful in supporting you in any way, as it does help other folks find it. Thank you all for listening. Have a great week, and we will be back soon.